Last week I preached to just the children who are here, and this morning I'm preaching only to the scouts who are here, so everybody else can close your ears, have a little nap, but it's going to be okay. And I want to just tell you a few things about Baden-Powell and about his life. And I want to start out in 1907 in Glasgow in Scotland, where there was a movement of people called the Boys' Brigade. No girls, sorry. It was the Boys' Brigade, and it was something started up in the Church of Scotland, the forerunner of the Presbyterian Church in Canada, and it was to teach children about God and church and religion. And it was a big group, the Boys' Brigade. And one year, 1907, they were having a rally, and there were going to be 7,000 members of the Boys' Brigade present, so they wanted some important person to come and inspect them. And they found a famous retired general from the British Army, a man who had been through all kinds of wars and campaigns, a very tough and stern man. And when they told the boys that a British general was coming to inspect them, the boys were absolutely horrified. Who wants some stern British general coming around and looking at you and making sure you're doing things right? What a horrible thought it was. So this guy shows up in Glasgow in 1907 to the Boys' Brigade, and they were all shaking in their boots. But of course it turned out there was no need for that, because the general's name was General Robert Baden-Powell. And he spoke to them as one friend spoke to another, and he asked them what the Boys' Brigade was doing and what they were learning. And he said, well, that's all very good. He said, but you know, my area of special interest is learning how to survive in the wilderness. And would any of you like to know how to survive in the wilderness? And they all thought that was much more exciting than learning about church and God. And they said, yes, teach us how to survive in the wilderness. So Robert Baden-Powell wrote a little book. Now I have to tell you how he knew how to survive in the wilderness. It was because when he was a boy, he was brought up in the country. And he used to go out in the farms and the forests and the fields hunting for animals. And he became really skilled at following the tracks of rabbits and other small animals, and trapping them, and skinning them, and building a little fire, and cooking them. And of course, since all of this was illegal, he was a poacher, and I shouldn't tell you that about the founder of Scouting, that he was a criminal, but nonetheless, he also learned how to, whenever he made a fire, he knew how to make it very small without any smoke, and he learned how to cut a piece of sod so that if the game warden came along looking for him, he could cover his fire over very quickly and put the piece of sod back in place, and then he would climb up a tree to hide from the game wardens. And that's how he learned how to hunt and track and make fires and to know where he was from looking at the stars. And he had been teaching that to soldiers in the British Army, and now he wrote a little book called The Guide to Scouting and How to Survive in the Wilderness. That was 1907, and lots of people showed an interest in scouting. And in 1908, General Baden-Powell wanted to try out his techniques for wilderness survival with some boys who had never studied it before. So he got a group of boys, and he took them to a place called Brownsea Island in Dorsetshire in England, and they were a strange group. He wanted to get together boys from all different parts of life. So we got some really high-class boys from Eton and Harrow, the really fancy schools. But he also got some boys who worked in the mines and the factories, and he got some boys who were just street thugs from the east of London, and had some boys who were doing apprenticeship work, and he got 20 of them together on Brownsea Island. And he taught them everything he knew about hunting and fishing and tracking and navigating and how to build a boat. And he sent them out with that knowledge. And he reckoned that that would be the end of the scouting movement. He had taught these people, and that was it. But 1 year later, he wanted to see what those boys had remembered about scouting.